And for more on the latest developments, our correspondent Rahul Pathak joins us in the studio. Hello, Rahul. So what else do we know about this meeting from Brussels?
Well, I think Zelenskyy and his European allies wanted to present a very strong and united message, a message I think primarily directed at Washington, and that message being that Ukraine's current borders are sacrosanct and that there can be no changing of those borders through the use of force, and that the EU will push to make sure that Ukraine aren't bounced into any ceasefire or peace deal that looks like it favours Russia in any way. Because I think European leaders like President Macron of France, the EU Commission President von der Leyen, who we just heard from, and Zelenskyy were all concerned watching those pictures on Friday from the Alaska summit between Trump and Putin, a summit that interestingly that Zelenskyy and the EU were not invited to. And I think they feel that Donald Trump is following the Putin narrative as a result, and with regards to the war in Ukraine, and they need to get Trump and the United States back on their page, as it were. I remember this time last week, Donald Trump was talking about imposing really tough sanctions and tariffs on Russia if, a ceasefire deal wasn't agreed to, and that would have a huge impact on Russia. Its economy is on its knees right now, mainly because of the war, yet now Trump says he no longer plans to impose any economic pain on Russia, having spoken to Putin. And in terms of the front line, this could mean the difference between the Ukrainians keeping the Russians at bay, or Putin's forces being able to capture areas like Donetsk, which has currently been the epicenter of the war in recent weeks. And I think it's no coincidence that the EU Commission President von der Leyen said, and I quote, "There can be no limitations on Ukrainian armed forces, be it cooperation with other third countries or assistance from other third countries. Ukraine must become a steel porcupine, indigestible for potential invaders." So a very strong, a very evocative message coming out of Brussels this Sunday.
Well, indeed. And, of course, tomorrow, Monday, the focus very much moves to Washington, D.C. and the White House.
What an extraordinary meeting this is going to turn out to be, because Zelenskyy is certainly going to have a lot more company on this trip to Washington than he did on his last one, because pretty much every major European leader today has said that they will be attending this meeting with Trump in person. So one thing I don't expect is a repeat of those extraordinary scenes at the White House in the Oval Office back in February, when Zelenskyy's summit with Trump ended in basically a shouting match in front of a very MAGA-influenced press corps. And I mention that because some of the frankly ridiculous questions asked by the press that day, including why Zelenskyy wasn't wearing a suit. Also, the US President and Vice President both accusing Zelenskyy of not showing enough gratitude to the United States. I think the approach emerging from the European leaders today is a clear attempt to avoid a similar ambush from taking place. I think the feeling is that Donald Trump will be less likely to bully Mr. Zelenskyy when he has all those European leaders beside him. Clearly, they've concluded a united front in person is the best hope of swaying Mr. Trump their way. Paul.
Indeed. Rahul, many thanks for that. Rahul Pathak there.